had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
What happens is they're in Mexico. They're going to have a baby. They move over here for a couple of days. They have the baby. No, but Bill, they're saying it's not going to hold up in court. Now, it's going to have to be tested, but they say it's not going to hold up in court. Regardless, when people are illegally in the country, they have to go.
But you are not going to be able to deport people who have American citizenship now, and the federal courts will never allow mass deportations without due process for each and every one.
Yes. I don't think they have American citizenship, and if you speak to some very, very good lawyers, and I know some would disagree, but many of them agree with me, you're going to find they do not have American citizenship. We have to start a process where we take back our country.
You're an idiot.
You are an idiot. This is unbelievable. Okay, this is unbelievable. Oh my God, we've had a man who he tried to get into a black church to kill African-American parishioners, and of course services were over, so the doors were locked, and he wasn't able to do that, so he went to a Kroger, and he killed a grandpa with his grandson who were trying to buy some poster board for a school project, and a woman out in the parking lot. Okay, the little grandbaby, this elementary school-age kid watched his grandfather be shot for no reason except that he was black, and ran out into the parking lot screaming for help, to help Grandpa, Okay, and then we had a crazy bomber who, everybody that Trump put on his hit list was on this crazy bomber's hit list. Of course, the guy thought that he was, Trump's son. He felt Trump was the daddy he never had, and he was going to do everything to make Trump, just adore him, went to Trump rallies, the whole 9 yards. We find out that the bombs were still appearing. The bombs were still showing up as late as yesterday at CNN Atlanta. Well, at the Atlanta post office, they intercepted it. It was on its way to CNN Atlanta. And we found out over the weekend that Tom Steyer, the billionaire, who still will not help me, Tom, I got a robocall from Tom Steyer. I tried to say, hello, could you support the show? Because I'm on your side and petitions ain't going to cut it, and you're a freaking billionaire, and I'm over here trying to sell hats and T-shirts to survive. Well, thank you, everybody who bought a T-shirt yesterday. Keep doing it. We need it. It's almost the first of the month, and you know how much it costs to run this show. It costs a hell of a lot. But that said, thank you for supporting the show yesterday. Please continue to do so. Look at this hat. This is such a, if I look good in hats, I'd wear the hat. This is such an awesome hat. I think this hat should replace the MAGA hat. On sale at randirhodes.com. Just go into the top and you'll see the little white button. It says merch, as in merchandise. You click on that and go to the store. However, we have all this going on, and then on top of it, okay, so Tom Steyer, the robocall, and I was like, hello, can you give me, some sort of a marketing budget, because that would do it. That would freaking do it. Look what millions of dollars in marketing on freaking Facebook did to our presidency. You see what I mean there? So there's that. And then we have the president, we have a crazy, well, I hate to say these people are crazy. They're not crazy. Because the insanity defense will not play. And that's how you know they're not crazy. If they were crazy, insanity would be a complete defense, right? And they would go to some institute. No. These people are just full of hate and disappointment and resentment, and they are like little, kegs of gasoline, and Trump is the match. And he just sets them ablaze by feeding them this racial intolerance, this unbelievable us and them, this unbelievable others theory from their rapists, they're coming to get you, from globalists and George Soros, and these are the enemy of the people. The media is fake. They're lying to you. And people go, he didn't call all media fake, just some media fake. he's literally labeled CNN fake news. He has yelled at Jim Acosta. He has told you to look right there at all the news cameras from the major news organizations. Right there in the back of the room, he'll say fake news, fake news, fake news. The only news he thinks isn't fake is the fake news, which is Fox News, that is making up even more incendiary crap. So we have Jews being attacked. We have Latinos being attacked. We have African Americans being attacked. We have... I can't even keep track of all the people that are being beaten and attacked and violently, and the president, now the New York Times is reporting that the president could not make a statement about the synagogue killings on his own. He just couldn't do it. He had no desire. No desire to make a statement of sympathy or empathy. No desire whatsoever. And it took Ivanka and Jared to craft a statement of outrage about the anti-Semitism after Saturday. And then he gave the statement and went right back into partisan mode and started blaming the media for the anger on his Twitter feed. And he went to all his rallies, didn't stop for a month. And now he wants to go to Pittsburgh today. He's actually in Pittsburgh today. And he's not welcome there. He's not welcome there. The mayor has said they don't have the security that they would need. And could you please let us bury our dead and then consult with the families who lost people or who are injured and wounded and ask them if they want you here. And he refused to do that. So he went to Pittsburgh anyway. And he went to Pittsburgh after over 50,000 people wrote a letter, an open letter to him, saying that he would not be welcome in their fair city until he denounced all of this racial animus, all of this ethnic dog whistling, all of this hatred. If he would stop spewing this bile, stop saying this one is a rapist and that one's here to invade and these people have diseases and those people are globalists and they control the media and they run Hollywood and they run the banks and this one over here, what do you have to lose? You're so, you're so down the totem pole of human beings that you have nothing to. And they said, unless you stop, please do not come here. And he went there anyway. 50,000 people from one city wrote an open letter saying, please do not come here. Please have a moment, a cleansing moment of moral clarity before you set foot into, and please let us bury our dead, because the focus here is on them, not you. And that just made him want to go there more. But oh no, it wasn't enough for him. He had to stoke more racial hostility. More. Now, that clip that I played to open the show is from 2015. And, I could go back and I could get a lot of the rallies that he loves. All this man knows how to do is campaign, which is a polite word for what he really does, which is con you. Okay? It's, not you. But he tries to con the people who are desperate, and are bitter, and are disappointed, and are grieving, for their own lot in life, right? He tries to exploit all those people by pointing to other people and saying, that's what you should. Don't look up at the people I gave the tax cut to. Don't look up at the rich people who I cater to. Don't look up at the, unbelievable amount of money that was just transferred from you to them. Don't look up, because you might find out we're peeing on you, and we don't want you to see that. Look down at the people below you. Look down at the people you think are beneath you. Look down at the people who you think are less than you. And thank God that as poor as you are, as ignorant as you might be, as lazy or as disabled or as, at least you're not them. And that's the whole thing here. So what does he do today? today he takes that 2015 thing about, well, he used to call them anchor babies. Is what I'm saying. Go pull all the anchor baby clips. You remember he was calling them anchor babies. This was a derogatory term for people who come here and have children here, and their children are U.S. citizens. And Trump has been deporting a lot of the parents of those children. You know, there are numbers of people who have given interviews that said that, you know, the Border Patrol, not Border, but the ICE came and deported the parents, leaving behind 3 children. Or ICE came and deported the parents, and the parents had to make a decision which children could they afford to take back to a country they haven't lived in for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. Right? So now we're 1 week away, like literally a week from tonight, a week from today. 6 days, 14 hours, and 52 minutes. We will know whether or not these people kept power. And if they did, all bets are off. Truly, all bets are off. Civil war, you got it. It's going to happen. There's no question. They will be so emboldened by the message that white supremacists and haters are sending them if they keep the House and the Senate. If they don't, there's still a lame duck session we have to contend with. All the losers, all of the losers and all of the ones that got defeated, they're still going back for a lame duck session of Congress. Be very, very alert to that. So we've got Trump out there today trying to stoke the last heap on the racism, upon ethnic hatred, upon disdain, upon, pejorative words for others. And I don't even know who the others are. I mean, who are the others? Unless you're a Native American, you're an other. But he is now saying again, and this time he's doubling down. He's saying that, and I really want you to consider this. He's saying that with an executive order alone, he can strip the citizenship away from people who were born here if their parents were here without papers when they were born here. By executive order. Now, as you know, he's ginning up all this hostility about this caravan, which, by the way, has shrunk now. There's literally 3,500 haggard Hondurans in this caravan. 1,700 of them have applied for citizenship or applied for work permits in Mexico. And some of them have just given up and have resigned themselves to death. So there's about 3,500. Do you think in this nation that is so vast and wide, with 320 million people, there's room in this country to absorb another 3,000 people? Do you think that that's a threat to you? Or is the bigger threat a president of the United States who believes he can undo the 14th Amendment with the stroke of his pen? Which is the bigger threat to our democracy and our democratic experiment? Which is the greater threat to the republic? 3,500 malnourished, haggard, terrified people fleeing corrupt government, gang violence, corrupt police officers, people who steal their paychecks, people who are, poorer than dirt and are in very bad health, or a president who thinks that he can do away with any amendment he doesn't like by executive order. Just the fact that he thinks that should terrify you. But now he's saying it out loud. He was saying that you could undo the Constitution with legislation, which was also wrong. But now he's saying he doesn't even need that. He can do it by executive order.
all things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
We have never had a president of the United States do what this president is doing. He is stoking a cold civil war in this country, and it has turned hot on the periphery. This man, Bowers, what he said was, when he went in, he said, I can't sit by and watch my people get slaughtered. Screw the optics, I'm going in. And he went in to kill Jews. The Jews he believed that were financing the caravan, the invading army, like a panzer division that is threatening the southern border, an army that is racked and riddled with disease. The same type of rhetoric, the same type of propaganda that you would have seen in Germany in 1938, the dehumanization, turning people into infested vermin. What Trump is doing is stoking and inciting, for the purposes of political power, the worst amongst us to take action in his name. We have a situation where, for the grace of God, the largest mass assassination attempt in American history was avoided that targeted, amongst them, 2 former presidents of the United States. Every one of those people was a target of Donald Trump's. And this man, a fanatic, was radicalized by Fox News, by talk radio, by a right-wing propaganda machine that is as sophisticated as it has turned deadly.
That's the truth. And that is what is going on in this country. There is a steady diet of propaganda that is being just waged on the American people. And I always was under the assumption that propaganda was illegal in the United States, but it isn't, obviously, because this is exactly the German playbook. This is exactly the kind of propaganda. I don't know, I played you yesterday a little clip of Fox News saying that these people from Honduras are coming here and they're riddled with disease, okay? They doubled down on this yesterday. They started naming diseases. They started saying that they're bringing polio and leprosy and Ebola, and I mean, it's just like real sick crap. Real
Enemy of the people, which there's a lot of people.
I really wish he would lose that term. It doesn't help anybody. It doesn't.
That's not the one. 16.
Now, in the national security realm, we've got all sorts of people, not only from Central America, but they're coming in from Africa, from the Middle East, and other places in this caravan. It's already been documented. It's already been noted by our people that are down there. Then public safety. We've already had people interviewed in this caravan and have already been deported from the United States for crimes such as attempted homicide. Now, these are prior deports that are coming in, and they will not come through the port of entry. They're going to come between the ports of entry, where it's the path of least resistance. Then public health. We have these individuals coming from all over the world that have some of the most extreme medical care in the world. And they're coming in with diseases such as smallpox and leprosy and TB that are going to affect our people in the United States.
Smallpox? Smallpox was where are they coming from? Are they coming from 1979? That's where they're coming from? Because we eradicated smallpox in 1979. Leprosy. Can you believe this? They're lepers. They're lepers. That's who's coming here, which, by the way, is extremely curable. It's a skin disease. Honestly, it's not just the one show, okay? It's all over the place.
It's a foreign invasion. So, yes, he can send the national military down to protect the border. I'm glad he's doing that. It's a strong stance. It must be taken because we simply cannot tolerate the continued invasion of this country when Americans are suffering every day. The national debt is exploding. We have diseases spreading across the country that are causing polio-like paralysis of our children. It's one thing after the other.
Senator, you can't very well blame that disease on illegal immigrants. We don't know the cause of it. I don't know that that's. I don't think that's fair. A lot of, but there are plenty of reasons to keep this country secure, including including making sure that everyone is healthy when they're brought into the country.
This is sick shit. I mean, I don't even know what to say. We can't have them and the word invasion, this is the word now. The word is invasion. Trump started it. Laura Ingraham interviewed him last night. She asked him about the invasion. Every pundit, every spokesperson, every lunatic, right fringy person was on Fox News asserting everything from smallpox to leprosy to polio to paralysis to TB, you name it. And they are, and calling 3,500 people who will, by the way, surrender themselves. The minute they set foot on American soil, that is what they do. They surrender themselves to the Border Patrol agents and they ask for asylum. That is what happens. Nobody, tries to outrun them. Nobody tries to avoid them. Nobody tries to evade them. They want to look for the person from Border Patrol. They look for the green uniform. Why? Because they want to surrender to that person and make a claim of asylum. That is what goes on. And they call it an invasion.
The New York Times is saying the military, Mr. President, being called up by you is an election year play. Is this politics or is this real?
When you look at that, thousands of people. Somebody said, now on that one, they build it down. I'm pretty good at figuring out how many people. Thousands and thousands of people on the bridge. When you looked at that bridge loaded up with people, that's called an invasion of our country. This has nothing to do with elections. And I've been saying this long before election. I've been saying this before I ever thought of running for office. We have to have strong borders. If we don't have strong borders, we don't have a country.
He's sending a brigade-sized unit down to the military. He's deploying 5,200, which is a brigade-sized unit, down to the border. They will be armed. He's making a very big deal about sending an armed brigade down to the border. What's horrific about this? Number one, using the military to advance political aims in a midterm election is just vile. That is just disgusting. And as a vet, I swear to God, it makes me sick. Number two, the military cannot enforce laws on U.S. soil. They can't do it. So what you're doing is you're sending out a brigade-sized unit with weapons to do brush clearing or to, technical support or whatever. They can't, Number three, if something should go wrong, you are looking at a bloody, bloody confrontation at the border if something goes wrong. And because the soldiers do have the right of self-defense, they can't enforce any law by gunpoint, blah, blah, blah. That cannot, However, if you have a couple of bad apples in there, if you have a couple of nuts in there, if you have a couple, and everybody's been in the military knows you're only as good as the weakest among you. You're only as strong as your weakest link. You have a weak link in there. You're supposed to pull them up and help them get up to snuff, because that person can get you killed. Now, I've been saying that for years. That's classic liberalism. I learned it in the military. But I'm telling you right now that a weak person in this brigade who has some sort of a bad feeling or harbors ill will towards people of, different, starts something or claims self-defense and starts shoot, this thing could be a bloody mess. Just an absolute mess. And this president is calling it an invasion, and everybody's on the TV calling it an invasion. And I tell you, this is just the sickest, most twisted thing. They're bringing disease and crime and polio and smallpox and blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, all this hatred has ratcheted up the weakest among us. Now, you can't say these people are crazy, because if they were crazy, then Bowers and Sayoc and all the other people, they would be able to plead insanity. But they can't, because they're not crazy. They're emboldened by this president who does nothing but tear us apart along religious, racial, economic, you name it. You name it. And now he's saying anchor babies. This is what he said, at a rally in September of 2015. He said, many of the great scholars say that anchor babies are not covered. And he's spreading this now along with the diseases, along with the crime, along with there's Africans in there, there's and what land bridge did the Africans use to get to Honduras or Central America? How did they get to Central America? You see what I mean? This is crazy. This is evil. This is ugly. And he won't stop to the point where Shepard Smith is trying. I don't know how he does it. I don't know how he goes there every single day. It was bad enough when I worked in between Rush Limbaugh and Sean Hannity, but I didn't have to see them every day because I was sitting in West Palm Beach and Rush Limbaugh was doing the show out of his house, his mansion in Palm Beach, which, looks like a French gay man threw up all over the place. I mean, it's just, he has no, money can't buy you class. Thanks, Luann de Lesseps. But honestly, so I didn't have to run into him. And in fact, there were a couple occasions when I was in New York using the New York studios, and his studio was behind mine, but his studio was always locked, and the blinds were always drawn. He doesn't like people, and he doesn't want to see people, and nobody's allowed to see him, which is great because you never had to, darken. He never darkened my door. You see what I mean? But I don't know how Shepard Smith goes into work every day knowing Hannity's in the green room getting hair and makeup. I mean, I honestly don't know how he does it. And they work across the street from the New York studio that I used to work in. Literally across the street.
Tomorrow, the migrants, according to Fox News reporting, are more than 2 months away, if any of them actually come here. But tomorrow is 1 week before the midterm election, which is what all of this is about. There is no invasion. No one's coming to get you. There's nothing at all to worry about. When they did this to us, got us all riled up in April, remember?
Yep.
The result was 14 arrests. We're America, we can handle it. But, like I said, a week to the election.
And then today he said,
President Trump says he plans to sign an executive order to end the right of citizenship for children born in the United States whose parents are not citizens and are undocumented immigrants. Of course, he can't do that. The reason? The Constitution. We'll get into that in a moment.
And Mexico.
Further, constitutional scholars say in the event the president actually tries this move, there would be an immediate injunction and his order would not ever take effect. Earlier today, the House Speaker Paul Ryan concurred, saying flatly to a radio station in Kentucky, the president obviously cannot end birthright citizenship with an executive order. Because, again, the Constitution.
Right.
Specifically, the 14th Amendment.
Right.
The Republican Senator Lindsey Graham has long pushed to change the Constitution on this matter, but that would require a 2/3 vote in the House of Representatives, plus a 2/3 vote in the U.S. Senate, and then ratification by 3/4 of the state's legislatures, and that is not under consideration.
Unbelievable. This man will do and say anything to tear our country apart, to tear us apart. 14th Amendment, in case you can't conjure it in your mind, it says all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, meaning subject to the laws of the United States, are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. The 14th Amendment clearly says if you are born here, it determines your citizenship. Now, I will tell you that there is an old case from, I was listening to, my car broke down today on top of it, okay? This is not a good time for us at the Randi Rhodes Show. I know a lot of you have election fatigue, and we can see it, but I still have to pay the bills, and my car freaking broke down. So I had to listen to AM radio today in a rental car I had to rent to get to work. And I'm listening to Rush Limbaugh lie to his people, lie to them, saying that the president can undo the Constitution, and he must. And Trump is the guy to do it, and this all has to end, and screw the Constitution. It's time. Oh, my God.
Connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844.
561-270-3844. Imagine, after a bomb was sent to CNN, the President of the United States goes and says, the press, the free press, is the enemies of the people. And then he says, the anger in the country is caused by the press who reports critically of him. What he is saying to the next sick person on the end of the transmission is, if you take an action, it's because they deserve it. What we are seeing, just as we saw young, displaced, evil, or sick, or just plain losers be radicalized by ISIS, we are seeing the same thing in the United States right now. These two losers, these two sick people, these two evil people, three evil people,
yes,
being radicalized by this right-wing propaganda industry. And that's exactly what it is. This whole caravan in the last week of the election is a giant lie. This is Trump's Reichstag fire. Yeah. It is a lie. And that the United States military, the most powerful armed force in the world, would be deployed at a brigade size unit level to the southern border to stop this caravan, which is 1,000 miles away and made up of women and children. The insinuations that it's filled with terrorists and Middle Easterners. 40% of the country has opted into an alternate reality. We have to wake up in this country and understand the danger that this presents to all of us. We can't put our heads in the sand. Kellyanne Conway despicably today goes on national television and she said, well, this shooter's motives were because there's an anti-religious sentiment. No, ma'am. The propaganda industry that she commands, with the vile president that she serves, abetted by Mark Levin and Rush Limbaugh and Breitbart and Newsbusters and Judicial Watch and all the rest of them, have blood on their hands for the incitements that they have made that have triggered and radicalized these crazy people. It is deliberate in intent. He scapegoats minority populations. He alleges conspiracies. He creates a sense of shared and virtuous victimhood, positions himself as the avenger, and there is no cost too high so long as it benefits his narcissism, so long as it benefits him politically.
Politically, this is what I keep telling you. And the other reason is because in chaos, in a civil war-like setting, even if it's if it's a cold civil war, which is what Steve Schmidt, who ran the McCain campaign, as you know, is alleging, that there is a cold civil war that is turning hot. Well, it seems to me that there is a hot civil war because people are shooting, people have been radicalized. Like I said, to say, oh, well, they're all crazy, it's just a crazy person. No. It's not insanity. It's radicalization. And the president is radicalizing. And he has been ever since he started saying violence was acceptable, that violence, he would pay for your legal fees, that he would defend you in court if you punch someone in the face or if you, a violent thing. And this equating yelling at Ted Cruz or yelling at Sarah Sanders, which might be embarrassing for Sarah Sanders and might be embarrassing to Ted Cruz, is not the same as shooting a gun and killing 11 people in a synagogue. It's not the same as sending pipe bombs through the mail. It's not the same as attempted murder. It's not the same as murder. It's not the same as assault. It's not the same as battery. It's not the same as touching another person in an unwelcome way. It isn't the same. And this equation, this moral equivalency. Well, it happens on the right. It happens on the left. When Steve Scalise, when Gabby Giffords. Nobody brings up Gabby Giffords. Nobody brings up JFK. Nobody brings up Martin Luther King Jr. Nobody brings up Robert Kennedy. Nobody brings up, the fact that a radicalized idiot in a parking lot shot her in the face. So you have, somebody who was, disappointed and angry that Bernie Sanders wasn't, and took a gun and terrorized Republicans who were, playing softball. That's one person. But the long list of black people unarmed, by uniformed police officers, people who are supposed to protect and defend, the long list of people who went into the Holocaust Museum with guns, went to the Comet Pizza Parlor with a gun, Dylan Roof, who went into a black church with a gun, this bomber, who had a van plastered with, CNN sucks and Trump and Hillary in the crosshairs, Sarah Palin putting Hillary in the crosshairs, Donald Trump saying Second Amendment protection. If Hillary picks judges, maybe people who have Second Amendment rights, telling the Secret Service that protects Hillary Clinton, maybe they should just drop their guns for a day and see what happens. We'll see what happens. You cannot do this moral equivalency thing because one person demonstrated the same lack of character and the same, ability to be radicalized by politics. But you've got an 87% increase in anti-Semitic activity. You've got people who are not even afraid anymore to say, I started a gang. They're called the Proud Boys. And what do? We kill people. Violence works. Try it. Choke a bitch. Choke a transgender person. I mean, this is radicalization, and it's happening in this country, and it's happening because the president is encouraging it and wants it to happen. Because in chaos, in absolute chaos, he can steal, and that is all he cares about. It's not just about winning an election. It's why he wants to win an election. He wants to win so he can take all the money and give it to people that are like him. All the money, all of it. Social Security is your trust fund. Medicare is your trust fund. It is completely supported by your tax dollars that come out of your paycheck. And if you're lucky to have an employer, they pay part of it too. If you're self-employed, you carry full freight. But that's your trust fund for your old age or for disability. And he wants it, and he's going to steal it. That is just a fact, and that is what this is about. Freddie in Los Angeles.
Hey, so my question for you is, you were talking about, could the U.S. absorb 3,000 that are incoming? The answer to that is absolutely yes. However, it opens up Pandora's box. One, you greenlight future groups of thousands. Not only that, but go back to the 90s till present day. How many people cumulative have come into the United States without essentially an invitation, right? So if you're going to be honest about this, then say the numbers, because they're huge, they're astronomical. At what point does our country hit critical mass?
Well, so America tried to do bipartisan immigration reform, as you know. We had the Gang of Eight in the Senate. That was, John McCain and Democrats and Chuck Schumer and all that. And they put together a package of comprehensive immigration reform with a path to citizenship for those who are already here. And when we had John Boehner as Speaker of the House, he wouldn't even introduce it in the House. He wouldn't even put it on the floor. And that's
Randy.
That's a sin. That is a sin. That's number one. Number two. Well, you asked me a question. Do you want the answer or no?
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
You don't sound very open. Are you open?
I'm open.
All right. Down in Central America, a place where very few people here are familiar with, you have some of the most brutal governments. They are corrupt. Those elections are rigged. The OAS, the Organization of American States, has said this Honduran election was a dirty, dirty election, and it needed to be redone. Unless America leads down there, unless America actually goes and see, we did some investment in Mexico with NAFTA, which, you know, a lot of people hated, but it made Mexico livable. And so you have very few Mexicans that are, you know, doing this kind of, long trek to get here. But now it's coming from Central America. And unless and until America gets interested in bringing call centers or some sort of, jobs down there, or until America starts monitoring their elections and saying, oh, no, that was dirty. This guy is corrupt. We can't have him there. We're going to get this.
I totally agree with all of that. Where I think that you and I and all of your audience that's probably primarily in the United States of America, we all, for one way or another, we have to all come to the realization we're at critical mass because we look at everything that's going on, everything we're talking about with healthcare and all of that. So could we absorb more human beings? Yes, but systemically, look at all of our major urban areas right now and how they are just, the stress test is like failing in so many. We can't just take on an endless amount of people. At some point, sovereignty and borders do have to mean something.
So this is what I'm telling you. I mean, there are ways to protect, who's already here. And there are ways to improve your neighbor's lot in life so that they don't need to or want to or have to come here, because trust me, this is not anybody's first choice. They don't say, you know what I want to do is bundle up my family, carry what I can on my back, including my infant son, and take a chance walking 2,000 miles so that I can surrender myself to border security and try and make a claim for asylum. That is not anybody's first choice.
That's a great point. The other thing that I would point out too is that, like, if you and I were going to migrate south because the United States was just like the wheels came off, right?
Right.
So we find out that the grass is greener down below the equator. I doubt that you and I are going to carry the stars and stripes across through the trek, right? So the people that are coming up, it would be, you're coming up, you're going to knock on the door, please let me in. Okay, fine. By the way, I'm marching up here with my flag. These are the things,
what
and the
flag?
people that are running.
Tell me what
you haven't seen any imagery of all the people carrying Honduran flags?
No,
I
haven't seen that.
I mean,
not one.
And it's like,
no, not one.
Well,
I see them carrying their babies. I see them carrying backpacks. I see them sleeping on the hot street. But I haven't seen anybody with a flag. But I will tell you this. I lived down in Central America for a little while, and on the 4th of July, I flew an American flag, and nobody seemed to give a damn.
Well, was that Belize or Costa Rica?
Costa Rica.
Yeah, no doubt. That's like the 52nd state.
It's Central America. It's the neighbor of Honduras and El Salvador.
No, I know, but Costa Rican is like so friendly.
Well,
to
why?
Us.
Why do you think? So? Why is it? Why is that?
Yeah.
Why? No. Why is it?
Right.
Why is it friendly? Why is it open like that? Why?
Oh well, because we go
they
down
have
there.
clean government. That's why, and they don't have a military. That's why. They don't spend anything on a military. They have a Coast Guard. That's it, to protect themselves from drug smugglers. Other than that, they have no military, and they haven't had one since 1948. And they do that so that America will stay out of their business. They do that so America can't say, we need to occupy Salvador, or we need to occupy Nicaragua, we need to fight the Sandinistas, we need to fight these left wing. They don't have a military so that people will leave them alone. They're like the Switzerland of Central America, and their people, instead of spending money on all this military gear, they get national health care. They get free education all the way through, as far as they want to go in college, as far as they want to go. You want to be a doctor? Fine, go all the way. You want to be a mechanic? Fine, go to this school. That's why Costa Rica is different. They choose not to spend their money on hardware, and they've created an economy. A decent economy. That's what has to happen. And they would love to see their neighbors do it, because don't think that these people aren't going into Costa Rica also. Nicaraguans are pouring into Costa Rica.
Mary had a little man. The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America. From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
This is a case where if they had an armed guard inside, they might have been able to stop him immediately. So this would be a case for if there was an armed guard inside the temple, they would have been able to stop him. Maybe there would have been nobody killed except for him, frankly. Certainly you want protection, and they didn't have any protection. They had a maniac walk in, and they didn't have any protection, and that is just so sad to see.
I just wanted to tell you that 4 police officers were injured too critically, and they were there within seconds, and they were prepared for a shooter. But the shooter had an AR-15 and 4 handguns, and so very prepared, very experienced police officers responding to an active shooter were shot and were unable to stop this man. They were not able to kill him. This president just lies, and he blames. And it's their fault. It's the victim's fault because they were just there and they didn't think to have a guard. It's their fault. And you need to have police officers now in churches and in temples, and you need to have them in school. We need more guns, not less guns, more guns. You know, he calls these people maniacs, and yet he doesn't want to do background checks. He radicalizes people just like ISIS radicalizes people, disaffected, embittered, hostile people. He feeds them every single bit of nourishment that their sick minds, that their crazed minds, that their hateful minds, that their disappointed minds can process. And then they do something, and they kill people, and he says the answer is more guns. Maybe tone it down a little, Mr. President, and not say that the media is the enemy of the people so that CNN is targeted for 3 pipe bombs. Maybe that could do it. You know, we've lost all these journalists now. You know, you lost 5 journalists at in Annapolis. That was a day. It was a day in the United States. Oh, 5 journalists were murdered. You have this Jamal Khashoggi. The president doesn't give a damn. He doesn't give a damn that this man was here legally and that he was a journalist for the Washington Post. He wants it all to blow over. So his really radicalized Saudi friends will let him keep, his hotel. I mean, this is sick. This is so twisted. This is so wrong. Xavier in Los Angeles.
Randy.
Yes.
Hey, how you doing? It's Xavier. How you doing today?
I'm good. How are you, sir?
I'm just scared.
Mm-hmm.
I'm scared.
You know, it's funny because I've been having to take rides. You know, like last night I needed a ride home, and so I Ubered. And the guy that picked me up was, from the neighborhood here. And I told you it's a Haitian neighborhood. So I asked him if he voted. And he said, not yet. And I was like, come on. You got to get your friends and your family and whatever, whoever's cooking you dinner tonight. You got to get everybody out to vote. And then today, I had to go rent a car. And they, I rented it from Enterprise. And they came and picked me up. And the guy, I also said to the guy, did you vote? Oh, no, but I'm gonna. You better get out there.
No. The real threat is the women from and the toddlers. They're going to kill us. You don't understand that. That's the real threat.
Is what?
They're going to kill us.
Oh, they're going to kill us. Oh.
Yeah.
Well, we're already being killed. I mean, how many more dead people do we actually have to see? You've got all those kids from Parkland. He hasn't done one thing about background checks. He's got the House, he's got the Senate, he's got the presidency, he's got the court. Not one thing about background checks. 98% of America wanted background checks. You got immigration reform that totally needs to be talked about and done. We need infrastructure money. We need the lead cleaned out of our pipes. Instead, what does he do? He spends his whole day watching television and his nights.
Oh, his Twitter following.
And his nights, and no matter who gets killed, and no matter how many massacres, and no matter how many slaughters, or no matter what goes on, he goes and does a rally. Nothing bothers him. Nothing is a moment of prayer. Nothing is a moment of unity. Nothing is a moment to bring people together for him. It's only about him.
Exactly, Randy. And one thing, real too quick, I'm very proud to say that, hey, I voted on Sunday, and if it wasn't for your show and all of our Facebook feeds, I wouldn't have, and you know, of course, my family and everything, I wouldn't have voted early, but we're ready to knock it out. And one thing, too, real quick, to all the freaking grown-ass men that are fucking so afraid of some women and children traveling miles and miles to the border.
Yeah.
If they're afraid of that, gotta step it the fuck up and grow some fucking balls. That shit is sick. I'm sorry.
I don't think naturally they would be afraid of any of it. I really don't. But I think that they're being told, that the president believes that these are bad people, that they rape and they bring crime and they bring disease. This is exactly what happened in this country with the first America First crowd.
Randy, and one last thing real quick, and I'll let you go. I really do appreciate you taking my call. But you know what? It's one of the most disrespectful things is being lied to. And to have that Sarah Huckabee, whatever, for her to constantly lie to people and have that idiot lie constantly, that's disrespectful. And I'm done. Thank you so much, Randy. You have a wonderful day.
You do the same. Thank you very much. I'm glad you voted. A lot of people, I worry about you, California, especially LA. Do you think that there's, only one thing on the ballot? Let me tell you, everything is on the ballot. There's always things on the ballot that affect your backyard. That's why it's on your ballot, not my ballot. On my ballot, there are things that affect my backyard. There's everything from casino gambling and who's going to control it to animal cruelty, whether or not I want to see, greyhound dog races stopped because these dogs are bred for speed. And if they're not fast, they just take them out in the field and they put a bullet in their head and they breed some more until they get the fastest one. And then that poor dog lives its life in a crate. All these things are on the ballot. And LA goes, well, we're going to vote blue. There's tons of stuff on the ballot. And if you all surrender and say, well, my neighbor's got it, they'll vote blue. All it's going to take is a handful of people who don't agree with you to show up, all enthusiastic, and you not showing up. And then all of a sudden you go, what the F happened? He won? He effing won? That happens. But there's tons of stuff on the ballot that affect you and your life. Michael in Boca.
Yeah, Randy.
Hey.
I'm with David about the caller before. I'm sick of these bitch-ass men, you know what I'm saying, hiding behind your skirt. That's some disgusting stuff. You and I talked about that 12 years ago in New York. These soft men who let Hannity and them, trigger them into being afraid. They're going to wave their flag. So what?
Oh, I know.
Who cares, dude? Is that really important to you today? Man, the fuck up, pimpin'. Anyway.
Yeah, well, what happens is everybody that comes here, they surrender themselves to our border patrol, and they make a claim for asylum. Very few are granted, and those that aren't, they turn them around and they send them back, and they end up...
Wait, Randy, you mean there's an actual process to trying to become, a citizen? You mean to tell me it's not random? They're not a giant human ball that's just going to bowl through the fucking border? You telling me that's what it is, Randy? They're going to come up and say, hey, we surrender. We need help. We're here to reclaim asylum right now. What do we need to do? You mean that's what they're going to do, Randy?
And check this out. This is what happens, okay? When they surrender themselves, they are, they make their claim for asylum, and then the president is putting them, there's, in tent cities that cost us, now check this out, $750 a day he spends on these private companies that are building these tent cities in the most desolate parts of the West Texas desert. I mean, why $750? Just put an ankle bracelet on, give him a court date. And
I say that all the time. I say that that's the way it should be treated, Randy, like a mall. You should have an ankle bracelet or a wrist bracelet that goes off at 6 p.m. They track you. They come and get you. Simple. Okay, now, let me tell you what I call for. If Louis Farrakhan is the only example of anti-Semitism on the left, just so the right doesn't have to feel bad, then there's no both sides to that argument, because Louis Farrakhan isn't even political. He doesn't even vote. Their whole sect, that whole cult they deal with, they don't even vote.
Well,
they just deal with some pictures with black people.
Exactly. Louis Farrakhan is somebody that riles up anti-Semitic, feelings in African Americans in order to help himself. What is the difference between...
He don't rile it up in us, Randy. He says shit.
Yeah,
but he don't rile it up in us. But, Randy, here's the thing. If you want to compare his statements to Duke's, that's fine. But that shit ain't got nothing to do with what happened Saturday.
No,
Why are you bringing up Louis Farrakhan? And here's the other thing, Randy. If I'm a white liberal and I live in Cali, the fuck Louis Farrakhan got to do with me? Why is he the representation of the left?
Oh, I reject him as representation of the left.
And that's why I say, Randy,
he's representation of a cult.
Of himself.
Of a cult.
A religious cult.
A religious cult. Yes, exactly.
Yes.
A religious cult called the Nation of Islam. Unfortunately, he also leeches off of one of the great global religions, and he does it just to enrich. It's like Pat Robertson, okay? It's the same thing. It's a business. It's just it's like
a hustle. It's a hustle.
Yes, it's a hustle, and
so
this hustle is all over the television with these right-wing lunatic Christian preachers who just sit on the TV.
They're very conservative. If we really want to talk about them, there's no homosexuality. You want to go down their rules? It's not left-wing liberal shit, Randy. Read their books. They come down hard on that. There's no gay marriage in the Nation of Islam.
I honestly don't understand why you think that anybody that's listening now thinks that Louis Farrakhan is part of the left.
Well, I'm tripping on the media keep using him to make the right feel better. The right got to take this L, Randy.
I don't know what you're listening to.
Well,
what are you watching? What are you listening to?
Cuomo tried to be balanced last night in his quest to be balanced.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then all day yesterday on MSNBC, I'm like, if Lewis is it, then we're good. Then the left has been really good to this country. That's why the Jews vote Democrat, because that means it doesn't exist over here. But the right has to take this L, Randy. They got to take this L.
Michael, I have said this a million times. I cannot listen to every single show. I can't listen to every single person. I'm doing show prep for the most part 99% of my day. So, if somebody is saying something about just ask me, do I think that he's part of the left? No. I don't think he has anything to do with the left. He's got covered women. He's got guys who stand security and look all militant. What does that have to do with expanding civil liberties? What does that have to do?
Nothing.
So I don't get it. My whole point is I have 2 points, things that inform who I vote for. Okay, one. Does this person understand that their rights and my rights begin and end where their nose begins and ends? Does this person respect human freedom so that they know they can do whatever they want in their lives as long as it doesn't go past their nose and into my nose, right? And the other thing is, are they helping or hurting expanding civil rights to others? Are they helping transgender people? Are they helping bakeries understand that refusing service to people that you wouldn't, even want at your dinner table is not smart or good or healthy? That's it. That's all I care about. And then there's a third thing that moves me to love you, and that is, do I see you when somebody is weak or somebody is not doing well or somebody is disabled? Do I see you mocking them and scapegoating them, or do I see you reach?
Empathy.
Or do I
Are they
see
human?
you more than empathy? Do I see you actually proactively reach down and lift that person up as much as you can?
Yeah.
Like
I like that, Randy.
like a school teacher who teaches special ed and knows that that child might learn differently, but that child is capable of everything.
That's right. I like that, Randy. Are you exclusive or inclusive?
That's it.
That's what you're saying.
That's it.
Are you excluding or including people? That's what. That's it.
And it's all it's all I look at. I don't look much past that. If you fail that test.
Randi Rhodes Show is live on RandiRhodes.com and the free Progressive Voices app for Android and iOS. Visit the App Store or ProgressiveVoices.com now.
What about diseases? I mean, there's a reason why you can't bring a kid to school unless he's inoculated. You know, there's things that happen in this country. We already give 40 to 50% of our taxable income to the government for social programs.
No.
Is it too much to say that we just can't have countries, entire populations come in here without being looked at as hard-hearted? To me, it's a practical way of having a nation that everyone looks up to and wants to be a part of. That's part of the reason why America's America. There's a process.
Brian, if this is allowed to continue, the caravan into the United States, then the border is meaningless. Now, and I mean that. I mean, what's the point of a border?
These people are insane. And, they did the same thing. You know where America First comes from. The America First is a very old phrase. It has its very bad roots in the 1930s when Jews and other people who were helping to avoid a Holocaust, to avoid the Reichstag, to avoid Hitler's extermination of gays and Jews and Christians who helped hide them, or wouldn't, be good Germans, when they were pleading with America to come here, you had guys like Charles Lindbergh and others say, America first. And how many people died because America wouldn't take immigrants from Germany and Poland? That's where America First gets its name, and that's why Trump chose it. This is not a secret. This is something evil. And nationalism it comes from the same birthplace. And by the way, everything to do with the 50s and the big Red Scare and the McCarthyism also was a way to slap back at Jews. Okay, that was the Red Scare. They were saying that Jews were communists. Jews were responsible, for the Bolshevik revolution. I mean, this is as old as the cracking grandma's ace. There's nothing new about this hatred. Nothing. So that's why this poem about first they came for is so important, right? Because back then they said first they came for socialists, but I wasn't a socialist, so I said nothing. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I wasn't a trade unionist, so I said nothing. Then they came for the Jews, and I wasn't a Jew, and so I said nothing. Then they came for me, and there was no one to speak for me. That's why I made that commercial. Except this time in America, first they came for the blacks, then they came for now they're coming for the Democrats. Then now they're coming for the Jews again. Of course, always the Jews. I mean, we are literally 2% of the population of the United States of America. What the hell am I doing to you? Nothing. African Americans are what, 11, 12% of the population? What are they doing to you? Absolutely nothing. Got all these open jobs and we can't fill them, but you don't want to see somebody else get them either. This is like such resentment. If I can't have that job, then nobody can. Well, do you want to pick lettuce? You want to work in a slaughterhouse? You want to process meat? You want to work on the floor where you're in blood like up to your waist? You want to do it? No, I don't want to do it. Well, then let him do it. No, I don't want him to do it either. If I can't do it, nobody can do it. This is ridiculous. This is self-sacrificing. This is, hobbling your own country. We have all these jobs that need to be done, and you just don't want to see anybody do them? Tommy in New Jersey.
Hey, Randy.
Hey.
Was that the grandpa's crack or
grandma's?
I'm sorry. I couldn't hear it. I had to leave my desk, and I'm walking, so I don't know what you're looking at or talking about, or who's
Where are you? Where are you in New Jersey?
I'm outside of my house now.
No, where?
Oh, Montclair.
Oh, Montclair. Very nice.
Yeah. We've spoke twice before. You hooked me up when I left the Republican Party, and I was trying to get what's his name elected back in 2000.
Gore?
About 2 days before the election, I called into your radio show, and I was kind of hooked on Randy ever since. And then I spoke to you a couple of years ago before this shit show got into office. And man, it's like all the hens are coming home to roost here. This guy is. I just don't understand how anybody with any professional pedigree or even thought about other people generally could think that they can even keep their job or have a livelihood past Trump in 6 months, 2 years, whatever.
You know what?
Why are they propping this shithead up? I don't
Why?
get it.
Because they're full of grievances. They're full of resentment. They're angry.
What does Kellyanne Conway have a grievance against? She's
well, Kellyanne Conway.
what the hell?
She made almost $1 million, with Ted Cruz, and then hopped onto the Trump train. So at first she was on TV slamming Trump, saying he was a fraud, he was a bad businessman, and then someone else paid her, and all of a sudden they became the Messiah. Kellyanne Conway is for sale. That is what she is. She will take money and screw the American people is what she'll do. So if there's a name for that, fine. But that's who Kellyanne Conway is. She is sitting
Sarah
there.
Sanders, all these people who are mouthpieces for her, just going down with his bullshit flames. I don't get it.
Because they are making money. They're in the White House. It's prestigious. They think that it's gonna be great on their resume. What they don't realize is that working for Trump on a resume is going to be like walking into a job interview with poo on your shoe.
That's the premise of my question. Yeah,
right. But they don't get that. They think that they'll go on to support like the next racist Republican.
Oh my God.
It's a industry. It's a propaganda industry. And, it's really interesting. But, you say that you've been following me for 18 years or whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you look at how we struggle to get our message out, which is a message of inclusion, of expanding civil rights, of making this a more perfect union, of admitting that we aren't perfect, but we at least strive every single day to make it better and better and better, and all they want to do is tear it down. Well, there seems to be, a group of very well-moneyed individuals who like to put their money into hate speech and like to put their money with Alex Jones and Sean Hannity and anti-Jewish conversations and anti-black conversation, and the people on our side, they hoard their freaking shekels. They hoard their money. They'll petition drives
I heard that earlier in the show. That guy's emailing me and texting me all over the place.
Yeah, and he's robocalling my house, and I'm like, "Hello, Tom Steyer, is that really you?" Because
who the fuck is Tom Steyer's and his billions? Okay,
that's what I want to know. I want to know. I want to know.
Why don't they put you on television as well?
I don't know.
What is the fucking deal with that?
I don't know. I don't know, but it's really, really, really bad. It's really seriously bad. All of talk radio is all day long, hour after hour after hour of bullcrap lies, of being afraid, of being, blame this person, blame that person. Let's destroy the Constitution for Donald Trump. I haven't listened to Rush Limbaugh in forever. And like I said, I had a car today, and the only thing that worked was the AM radio. And I was listening to him because, you can't turn on AM radio and not hear him. This is Florida. He's on every freaking radio station. So I'm sitting there, and he's like, Trump is taking
the bloodline in my family now. I swear to God.
He's taking.
He's sitting. Go to a family event. And they're talking about fucking Rush Limbaugh.
Let me tell you something. He is literally.
Years. That guy's still sick and busted up. Are you kidding me?
You want to know what? That man bankrupted the entire company that I worked for all those years. Bankrupted it because he was making hundreds of millions of dollars a year and not selling anything. In fact, he was causing advertisers to pull out. And when they pulled out company-wide. They pulled out over all the shows. That included me. I got punished because he called Sandra Fluke a prostitute because she was saying that birth control is part of women's health care and should be covered in a health care plan. And he actually sat on the air and said, well, if I'm going to pay for you to have sex, I want to see it. And all the advertisers said, oh, we're out. And I lost all the advertisers because they didn't buy my show. They bought across all the shows.
Right.
So, and I can't make people understand media no matter how hard I try. But here it is in a nutshell. People who hate listen longer. That is it in a nutshell. And for some strange reason, the left doesn't want to entertain anybody. Entertainment, it's too controversial, it's too this or that. So you get these really dull shows. And unless you're with the braided armpit hair people, you don't stand a chance, okay? You got to keep it like very newsy and very this and very that, and you can't talk about your personal life. Screw that. Every time somebody lets this show see the light of day, it totally outperforms everything. But then it gets a little controversial, like I go do stand-up comedy in a nightclub in San Francisco, and I tell a joke about Hillary, and oh my God, all of a sudden I'm blacklisted for the rest of my life. That is the problem. That is the problem. And you know what? I will never quit. I'll never do it. I'll never just walk away. I care too much about this country. I care too much about people. I care too much about our kids. I care too much about taking a deep breath of fresh air and having my grandkids be able to do it. I know the next wars are going to be fought over water. And so do you. Pony up.
Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Why not use the National Guard forces? And will the forces, the active duty troops on their way, will those soldiers be armed?
To be clear, we are using the National Guard forces, and that's under Operation Guardian Support, very effectively being employed as we speak right now. We're bringing additional capability with Title X forces under Faithful Patriot. We have the authority given to us by Secretary Mattis. The units that are normally assigned weapons, they are in fact deploying with weapons.
Oh my God, what could go wrong? They are in fact deploying with weapons. What could go wrong at the border? What could go wrong? Listen, this whole country is full of immigrants. Just is. We don't serve Irish. We're being invaded by the Chinese. We must intern the Japanese. Turn the Jews back. Send them back. Turn the St. Louis around. I mean, this is crazy. Kelly in Michigan.
Hi, Randi.
Hi, Kelly.
First of all, let me thank you for your service.
Oh, you're welcome.
And let me thank you so much for everything you do every day. I mean, if you ever feel like it's not worth it, do know that it's terribly worth it. But I called because I'm thinking that this narrative that the right is setting up about the disease, the polio, the leprosy,
smallpox,
which
leprosy. Oh my God!
Right. What my fear is they're setting up this narrative so that they can separate children again.
Well, of course they're going to separate children again.
Yeah.
I mean, the idea that you can't keep children in jail for more than 20 days is still the law. And this man has done nothing to change it, nothing at all. And so, of course, they're going to separate children from their parents. And the sick part is $750 a day per is what he's willing to spend.
Oh, my God.
Right.
And they want to cut social programs.
Which does nothing except raid those I mean, like if you cut Medicare or if you cut Social Security, then whatever you save goes back into the trust fund. It doesn't go anywhere else. It doesn't go into the national treasury. It doesn't go into the budget. It doesn't go to pay down the deficit. That money stays in the trust fund.
Right. But they want to take it and play with it on Wall Street.
Yes, well,
I mean, that's been the ultimate goal.
But right, I mean, Bush tried to privatize it. That was the whole idea, was to give it to Wall Street to manage the trust fund. Look, there was an article yesterday in yesterday's homework that I bet you nobody read. It was very long. It was detailed, but it was all about police officers and school teachers' pension funds, and they are raiding them, and they're privatizing them, and they're giving them to hedge fund managers. And those hedge fund managers are charging those pension funds for management fees and all kinds of things. And those police officers that he loves so much, they're going to have nothing at the end.
That's so scary.
Well, that's him.
That's so scary.
But that's him.
Yeah, all he cares about is his bottom line. That's it.
It's all about the billionaires. It's don't you understand that Trump really believes that if you are not a billionaire, or if you're not somebody that runs a company with 500 or better employees, that you're a loser. It's what he thinks. I mean, he has called billionaires losers. He has, attacked people that are millionaires as being losers. Can you imagine what he really feels about people that he, goes, to Murfreesboro, Illinois? You really think he respects any of those people for what they've done with their lives, whether it's, being able to support a family of four or going to a coal mine job in West Virginia? He thinks you're losers.
That's what I don't get. Why don't these people realize it? How can they not see that?
Because he plays to their disappointment and grievance. He feeds it.
Exactly. Yeah, their lot in life.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, when he first started, I remember when he first saw one of his first audiences, and he looked out and he saw that these were uneducated, unwashed masses, basically, okay? And he said, these are my people. He was really disappointed in who he was attracting. And then finally, he got so frustrated that he said, I love the undereducated.
Exactly.
So he does tell you what he really feels. But they don't hear it, because what they want to hear is hatred. What they want to hear is nationalism. What they want to hear is white nationalism. What they want to hear is supremacy. They want to be told that no matter how bad it is for them, at least they're not fill in the blank. At least they're not a Jew. At least they're not black. At least they're not a Latino. At least they're not brown. At least they're not a Muslim. At least they're not an Indian. At least they're not. That's what he feeds them. That's what he feeds them, and they eat it up. And there's nothing new under the sun about it. Nations have been conquered with this kind of propaganda. People have been murdered with this kind of propaganda. Journalists disappear with these kinds of autocrats. And it's already happening, except it's happening here. Andre in Maryland.
Hey, Randy, how are you?
All right.
Yeah, so I just wanted to make a comment about the caravan and actually the left and Democrats' messaging. I think they need to do a better job of explaining why these people are leaving their countries, and start off with explaining that.
Okay, and wait, before you say what they should say, where are they going to say it?
I think they need to do it on all the media outlets. I mean, they need to explain, listen, we are the reason these countries are not stable. We destabilized these countries, 40, 50 years ago via the CIA, via different military, aggressions. And those countries never got themselves back together. So they had dictators and various types of horrible leaders, which has led to the bad situation.
Oh, no, it's even worse than that. They don't have dictators. They have what appears to be, and this is what we're going to go through, too, because what do we have now? We have white nationalism. Right. We have violence. We have voter suppression. Believe me, if this election is close, this man is going to contest it. Let's remember that he was asked during a debate with Hillary Clinton whether he would accept the results of the election. And he said, it depends if I win or not. He said, I will make a judgment at the time. All right. So you understand who he is. Now, what I want to say is that these Central American countries, Nicaragua, Guatemala, Honduras, they pretend to have elections. People actually do go and vote, but those results are played with, okay, all the time. So so you have these organizations say, like the OAS and the United States, observes it too, and we know. And they say this election was rigged. This was not a free and fair election. This is not the real result, and we have to do it again. And they don't do it again. And so what happened, just so you know, what happened in Honduras was exactly that. There was an election, and this guy got elected in a rigged election, and the people were terrified. And they started to run away because this man started to steal their money and unleash the police on anybody that fought back against this election. It's what happens everywhere. You have this pretense of a free and fair election, but it isn't. And then people that push back, whether it's the Arab Spring or whether it's, the Hondurans or whether it's the Nicaraguan students, all of a sudden the military leader or the leader that won, who didn't really win, he starts shooting his own people. That's what goes on down there. It's not dictators.
Well, I see. Okay. Well,
it's autocrats. It's autocrats.
I stand corrected. But I think that America, we could, message-wise explain, hey, let's, instead of spending all this money to put these children in cages and detain all these asylum seekers, let's reinvest some of these Central American countries, one way or another, give them some incentive via jobs and stable government, stable economy to stay in their countries.
That's absolutely the answer.
It's simple.
It's absolutely the answer. There is no question that is the answer. That is totally the answer, is to get involved to make sure that they have clean and fair elections, that people are voting, and that they are, they have a real system that, have election money, help them build an economy, whether it's tourism or ecotourism or organic farming. Listen, that's what Costa Rica did. Costa Rica built an economy on organic farming, a service industry on, if you call Bank of America, you're going to probably talk to somebody in Costa Rica. Now, why is it possible? Why is that possible? Because their kids are bilingual, because they have 98% literacy. How did they get there? They didn't have a military. They invested in their kids' education. They invested in infrastructure. They built airports that make our airports look stupid. Okay? Their airport, you could eat off the floor. You could eat in the bathroom off the floor. Okay? They got shopping malls in their airport and everything else. Okay? How did they do that? They stopped spending money on military hardware, and they started investing in infrastructure. They invested in education and healthcare. That's why it's a shining little place in the middle of all this corruption and chaos. And because they didn't have a military, America couldn't go and intervene. They couldn't go and wage war like they did in El Salvador, like they did in Nicaragua. That's why nobody ever asks about these neighbors of ours. And then
Randy, Randy, sorry to cut you off, but that is what the Democrats and the left, that has to be their messaging. That is exactly what you just laid out. They need to start speaking this on the mainstream networks, because this is how you fix this migrant issue. This is their immigrant issue. This is exactly how you fix it. You just mapped it out. I don't understand why more folks on the left don't say that. Every chance you get, whenever the caravan comes up, just lay it out to them.
Well, it's a mistake. But like I said, nobody really, really wants to pay to hear these stories, okay? That's why, if you notice, everybody's got the same 3 stories every single day, okay?
Yeah.
It's just tested. It's tested. Listen, what we really should be talking about this election cycle, truly, really, honest to God, is health care. These Republicans, I mean, Obama put it beautifully. He goes, they voted to repeal Obamacare, 8, 9, 10, 15 times. And now they're out on the campaign trail. They're Florence Nightingale all of a sudden. You know, you've got our governor here in Florida who pulled off the biggest Medicare fraud in the history of the world. He's running for the Senate. And this man is running commercials on our television telling me that he's going to protect pre-existing conditions, when obviously Florida is party to this lawsuit to undo insurance companies' regulations that say that they have to take all comers, people with pre-existing conditions, and they can't charge me more. I mean, this is such fraud. And so, yes, everybody ought to be talking about health care right now. Everybody ought to be talking about what the problem is with our neighbors. But, that's not going to, make people tune in. They think it won't. I think they're wrong, but they think it won't.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see, Randy. But thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. I hear you. But, do a little experiment for your own self, okay? Go ahead and watch 5 minutes of Fox News, and you'll see exactly what they're going to talk about all day long, okay? If you watch 5 minutes in the morning, you'll know it's all of invasion and diseases. I'm like all day, every show. Then go look at CNN and go look at MSNBC and tell me if they're not telling you, different versions of the same 3 stories, whatever they choose to tell you about today. There's a reason for that. They think this is what you want to be, talked to about. They think that you don't want to understand healthcare. They think that you don't want to understand your neighbors to the south. They think that they don't have to answer, a lot of the questions that you have or do fact checks about. The president said today, we're the only country that if you're born on our soil, then you're suddenly a citizen. That's not true. 30 countries decide that where you're from doesn't just, determine your citizenship, but where you were born does. So I don't, I can't fight that fight anymore. That's why I have my own thing. I can't fight that corporate thing anymore. Oh, and here's another thing to throw into your little experiment. Please do notice who's the sponsor or sponsors. And guess what you're going to figure out? It's all big pharma. So do you really think you're going to get a conversation about how Medicare ought to be able to negotiate the price of prescription drugs, and that Medicare for all wouldn't cost half as much as they say it does? Because if you actually negotiated for the price of American prescriptions to American consumers, the price would be cut in half, and all of a sudden healthcare would be much more affordable. Well, they're never going to tell you that, because the sponsors, it's Xeljanz and Humira and Toltz. Okay? I mean, it's all big pharma. All day, every day. And you know what it costs to advertise 1 minute on those shows? About $800,000 a minute. So you mess with, you mess with 12 minutes of commercials, you're costing your network $12 million. You think they're going to let you do that? No, they'd rather pay you $12 million and tell you to shut up about it. Buy a stinking podcast.